Live from Hazard, Kentucky, this is Jammin John's Wrestling News. Here's your news for Monday, December 3rd, 2018. NXT Takeover during WrestleMania has reportedly been moved from Saturday night to Friday night, which means that the event will not be going head-to-head with the New Japan Pro Wrestling Ring of Honor Supercard event. WrestleVotes tweeted on Twitter, WWE has confirmed NXT TakeOver during WrestleMania weekend will now take place on Friday night, the Hall of Fame show Saturday night, both in Brooklyn. The New Japan Pro Wrestling Madison Square Garden show is now unopposed to actual wrestling Saturday night. WrestleVotes followed this up with another tweet that said, hearing that this was likely the case for next year, 2020, once Fox took over. They wanted TakeOver in that Friday night spot, unsure why the move is happening this upcoming year. Ring of Honor has secured exclusive deals with two independent stars according to PW Insider. ROH has signed PCO, formerly Pierre Carl, in the WWE, and Brody King. PCO is a former WWE Tag Team Champion as well as a WCW Hardcore Champion. Brody King has been a mainstay on the independent scene working for companies such as AAW, PWG, GCW, and DEFY. According to a listing on the XFL's website, the following cities will host teams in the inaugural season of the league's relaunch in 2020. Dallas, Houston, Los Angeles, New York, St. Louis, Seattle, Tampa Bay, and Washington, D.C. The announcement was originally scheduled for this Wednesday, December 5th. Riddick Moss returned to action this past weekend at NXT Live events in Jacksonville and Tampa, Florida. Moss was sidelined with a torn Achilles back in May and competed against Matt Riddle on Friday night and Evolve champion Fabian Aichner last night. Moss ended up with losses on both nights. Bellator MMA fighter Aaron Chalmers called out WWE champion Daniel Bryan with the following tweet on Twitter. Yo Daniel Bryan, May, I'm set to make my debut fighting in USA. If you're not too beat up after Mania, what you saying? David Arquette responded to criticism from Jim Cornette with the following tweet on Twitter. Finally heard Jim Cornette talk crap about me. He had some strong points, missed most of the obvious ones. One point I'd like to make is you don't have to be a butthole to share your opinion. Jim Cornette fired back with a tweet saying, how about I come to Hollywood and make some crappy movies to embarrass your profession like you do mine? Stick to being a fan, we're fine. Trying to wrestle and doing garbage matches with bank robbers will not endear you to me. Free advice, or you could just F off. During a recent appearance on Steve Austin's podcast, Ric Flair commented on continuing to drink following his recent health scare. Ric Flair said, I'm going to be completely honest with you. I've asked the doctor 10 different times, and of course I'll ask other doctors because I refuse to believe at my wedding I had 3 glasses of champagne. At my daughter's wedding I had the same or maybe 1 glass of wine with the champagne, and while I was in Florida with Wendy this past week, we were there for Thanksgiving, I drank about 4 beers. So it's not the alcohol that's going to hurt me, it's that the doctors are afraid that if I have one, that will lead to another, but I have had a drink, so alcohol is not going to kill me. I've never had any hard liquor, and that won't happen, but I have had probably 10 or 12 beverages with alcohol in them, beer, wine, or champagne. Thanks to eWrestlingNews.com for the quote. In an interview with Sportskeeda.com, former WWE diva Terri Runnels commented on if she was contacted for the WWE Evolution pay-per-view. Terri said, they did not. Here's what's interesting. I hadn't thought about this until the other day when someone asked, well, Terri was a trained wrestler. Not a good one, but at least she was trained. No the hell I wasn't. I would get to the building and I would 9 times out of 10 when Vince started making me wrestle, I'd be sick to my stomach until I find out if I was wrestling or managing. I hated it. Truthfully, I didn't mind taking bumps. I'll take bumps all day long. I used to say to him, Vince, people excel at things they want to do. I don't want to wrestle. He'd slap me on the arm and tell me I'd do great. Whomever I was working with would teach me a few moves during the day. That was it. Every time I went out, I did my best. During a recent Facebook question and answer, Kurt Angle commented on who he would like to wrestle in his final match by saying, that's tough. I see so much talent right now. It's hard to pick one. AJ Styles or Samoa Joe or Seth Rollins or Daniel Bryan. Then you have Sheamus and Cesaro, Baron Corbin, Chad Gable, Jason Jordan. I'd have to go with either Rollins or Bryan, only because I've never wrestled with them and I've had my eye on them for 5 years. Angle was also asked about his favorite year in WWE by saying, from a championship perspective, 2000-2001. From a workhorse perspective, 2001 to 2006. Yes, all 5 years. Why? Because I was undoubtedly the best in WWE during those 5 years. I'm not bragging, I'm being honest. My only setback was the neck injuries. Can't argue with that. While appearing on the Greg Adams Show, Seth Rollins commented on Life After WWE by saying, I've already kinda got something going on with my wrestling school back home in Iowa. I think once I get off the road and my in-ring career is done, take probably at least a few years off and relax a bit. You know, but who knows? I always like giving back to the business. It's been my passion, like you said, my entire life. So it's certainly something I feel like I'll be involved in one way or another for as long as I can, as long as I'm giving something and, making progress, not just kind of stagnating. Thanks to RingsideNews.com for the quote. And finally, here on Jammin John's Wrestling News, in an interview with Planet of Wrestling, Stephanie McMahon was asked about the most iconic character in WWE history. Stephanie McMahon said, a character that's impressed me the most has to be The Undertaker. I mean, he really is. He is the most iconic superstar in WWE history. So I would have to say him. Stephanie continued on by saying, those iconic characters, God, that's what WWE is all about. We're storytellers. We create these larger-than-life personalities that people can relate to. People can either cheer to see them win or boo to see them lose, and that's what it's all about. It's this interactive community that I'm just proud to be a part of. Thanks to RingsideNews.com for the quote. And for me, the most iconic character in WWE history, The Undertaker is a really good choice, but honest to God, there's been so many, I don't think that you could just pick one. In my opinion, I would have to say the most iconic characters in WWE history would have to be The Undertaker, Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Randy Savage, Steve Austin, The Rock, and John Cena. If you look at the majority of casual wrestling fans or people that don't really watch wrestling, they know those guys that I just named off with no problem. So I would have to say those guys are the most iconic ever in WWE history. Taker, Hogan, Savage, Andre, Austin, Rock, and Cena. That is your news for Monday, December 3rd, 2018. Check back here tomorrow for another Jammin John's Wrestling News Flash Briefing on Amazon Alexa devices, Spotify, YouTube, and Stitcher. Follow me on Twitter at John Caldwell, JONCOLWELL. Follow me on Instagram, The Jammin John. If you'd like to sponsor Jammin John's Wrestling News or your wrestling promotion wanting to get your next big event out for the awesome power of Amazon Alexa, you can email me, jzcaldwell@gmail.com. That's JZCOLWELL@gmail.com. Big shout out to Ryan Hurdle and Tony Nelson for subscribing to my Patreon. You too can subscribe to me by going to patreon.com/jamminjohn. I have free packages on there ranging from free to $7. Not a whole lot of money. I would really appreciate it if you supported me a little bit financially. Once again, that's patreon.com/jamminjohn. This is Jammin John saying thanks, goodbye, and I'll see you tomorrow.